Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chill Like a Mother podcast. I am Kayla Huzar, and I want you to take a moment. Before you even listen any further, I want you to take a second and think about the last really shitty thing you thought about yourself, you said to yourself. Maybe it was like a fleeting moment, or maybe it was like really loud and grumpy and critical. I want you to think about that thing. And now I want you to imagine if you had said those words out loud to your favorite person, your best friend, the sweetest grandparent that you've ever had, or your favorite student if you're a teacher, your favorite patient if you're a nurse, a therapist, a massage therapist, your favorite person. If you're watching us on YouTube, I actually saw Lisa's face change. There was like this anguish of like, oh my God, I would never. And I want you to just hold that for a moment. And we're going to talk about today how we as mothers can stop smothering ourselves in this way. So Lisa, tell me, what was your first thought and your reaction around that?
I got teary. It's such a powerful reminder of how brutally we hold ourselves to expectations and how unnecessarily we get caught in these loops of not being enough and not doing enough and quite rigid in our expectations of ourselves in a way that we would never do with someone else. And when you created that scenario, I felt my heart tense up and remember how angry I was at myself and how disappointed. And then this notion of treating someone in my life that way, my little heart just tore open and said, no, I would never want to do that. And so I think it's super important to look at that and how often we do that. And where does it come from? Why are we so quick to doubt and judge ourselves in a way that we would never with our family, friends, and our children?
Yeah. Yeah. I had this like wave of grief kind of wash over me around like, I would never say that to somebody who I love or care about. And yet, I think we're communicating with ourselves and regulating through that communication all day, every day, whether we know it or not. Right. I think there can be this like, I must regulate. It's like we're actually moving towards or away from that all day.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a couple things came up when you said that. This notion of regulating, I actually think it's being hyper vigilant, because I think what happens to me is, I do something, and I did it this morning. I dropped something and broke it. And so I've said, see, you loser, you suck. Right. And then I become hyper vigilant the entire day, looking for everywhere else that I'm a loser and suck. So then I develop this stress state, and I'm literally hyper vigilant, and my nervous system is on high alert to protect me from myself, to remind me of my flaws. And so to be able to stop that pattern would be really powerful, and to start recognizing, oh, okay, so this happened this morning, and I started to jump on myself. Is that true? I love to ask myself this when I start to have that negative self-talk. Is there another time that I've done something and it didn't end up this way? Right? Where I carried that mug and I didn't drop it. So if that's true, then what I'm saying about myself is not true. I'm not stupid, because there's lots of times I'm smart. So I'm debunking that story that I've so quickly created in that hypervigilant mode. And immediately it all just like, oh, and then I notice I take this big sighing deep breath and I go, okay, I'm all right.
Yes. Yes. Oh, all the times that you didn't drop the mug versus the one time or I drop a lot of things. I've broken a lot of plates and a lot of things. And so versus the handful or the two handfuls of times.
Yeah.
And I have dropped it and broke it. Like,
Yeah. And I think what happens is we do have to practice checking in with ourselves and asking that question, is that really true? And when we start to ask that question, is that really true? and we start to hear, nah, nope, not this time, then we feel more comfortable asking the question more often. And then it becomes this almost like a playful game. And, one of my favorite words is curiosity. Like, I'm always like, well, is it true? And then I ask myself that about the good stuff too. And a lot of times, the good stuff, I go, it is true. Ah, that was really smart.
Yes. 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 And what's really interesting about that is I think there could be a tendency to move into a bit of I've had some of my clients refer to it as kind of like complacency. Like say they have yelled and say they are trying to be compassionate with themselves, but they've also yelled every morning for 6 months. And so the truth is, the evidence is, okay, I actually do have enough evidence for me to label myself with this thing or have this belief or have this pattern, right? And so I think what's really challenging, I feel like it's maybe even more challenging for some, where when you don't find evidence, there is this like relief. But when you do find evidence, when we when we play with the tension between moving away from a label and moving towards a label or having to rewrite the label, there can be this curiosity and flexibility and regulation and support in all of that. But it's like, okay, if I am finding evidence for something that's maybe not aligning with my authenticity, I don't want to be an angry mom. I don't want to yell every morning. That's not how I go to sleep every night, thinking that I'm going to wake up. And yet I have evidence for this thing.
Well, I think one of the first questions to ask yourself is, why are you so upset at yourself for yelling? And do you think maybe you were upset at yourself and that's why you wanted to yell? So what's coming first? You know, where's it originating from? And where's the standard? What is that standard? And is it okay if I say, oh, look at that. I have this pattern of yelling at my kids every morning when we're trying to go. Why? Okay, well, I'm worried about me not meeting expectations. I'm worried about my kids not meeting expectations. I'm worried about them making me look bad. Okay, so what in there is the truth, the real part that I need to hold on to? And then when I start to peel that away and I go, "Oh, I'm trying to fit into a role. I'm trying to, be the mom." And if I just said, "What if I recognized, yeah, I yelled again today." And what if I just call it out? Instead of saying I'm a loser, what if I just say, you know what, kids? I'm really having a hard time regulating myself. I have this big deadline at work and it is weighing down on me. And I'm realizing that I'm super sensitive to what is going on with us. And when I set these expectations of myself and you're not going along with it, I get really upset. But that's not fair, and I'd like to work on that. And so it's okay if you wanna call me out on it a little bit, right? And I wanna acknowledge it without beating myself.
There was like a big, just like body sigh of relief for me when you said that, all about the expectations and then me looking bad. And this exact scenario happened last week in my household. Kids were supposed to go to camp in the morning. For context, it was winter break last week as we were recording this. And they were supposed to go to camp so that I could meet a client. And those were literally the words that came out of my mouth. I was like, I am mad because you won't have this consequence, right? But I will, right? And my 10-year-old was like, what's the big deal? Why do we have to hurry? La, 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 la. And then when we got there on time, he was like, see, mom, we got here on time. And I was like, yeah. I said, yes, we did get here on time because we had that conversation at home about the implications, right? We were on track to not be on time for me to have to show up late to my client meeting, but we got here. And so it was this whole conversation around like the expectation is that I show up on time and I have to get you to your place so that I can get home to my thing in time.
Yeah. And we don't want to burden our children around our stressors, around our feelings. So we tend to not tell them. We tend to not tell them when we have a deadline, when we have something really important that matters to us. We tend to protect them. But what we're really doing is setting them up. We're setting them up to carry the burden with us without the luxury of knowing what the hell the burden is.
Without the context. Yeah. Yes.
So I feel like, you know, and I do this all the time with my kids, and I wish I had known back then how unfair it is, because I was constantly pushing my children to be in my world without fully letting them into my world. I wouldn't be vulnerable in front of them because I thought somehow that would make them unsteady. But really, it empowered my children because my children are full of empathy and vision and wisdom. And they knew I was feeling bad, but they never knew why. And if they had known why, they would have
Yeah.
just wrapped themselves around me more, not
Yes.
less.
Yes. And I feel like there's such nuance to that. And I think amongst the content that we all consume around where the right is, where the wrong is, where the good is, where the bad is, how much sharing is too much and how, how much is not enough. And there's a lot in that. And what's coming to me is I'm a certified fair play facilitator, which is a system to create equitable division of labor in the home. And a big piece of what we talk about within that is the why, if you care about the dishes being done in this way. I need to know that as a partner, as a roommate, as a person cohabitating with you. And then I might understand it more, right? And it's easier to support that, or it's easier to help with that, or to understand that there's going to be a frenetic energy about the dishes sometimes, right? And I think with kids, age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, all those things, is the minute that my kids knew that there would be a consequence for me, that I would have to explain or show up late or feel rushed on the winter roads or any of those things, telling them the why, they participated in that more because exactly what you said, Lisa, they can feel my tension regardless of if they know why.
Yes. And, in my book, Creating Calm in Your Classroom, I have a section that you made me think of around being a calm, assertive, loving pack leader, right? Because as the parent, I am the pack leader. And I mean, physiologically, I was created in that role, but I have to be consistent. I have to be regulated, and I also have to be clear.
Mm,
And so I love how you said it's age appropriate. Is there's a nuance, but the reality is, if I am regulated, if I am clear, if I am consistent, then when I share what is happening, it will be in the right framework. It'll be in the right developmental space because I'm connecting with my kids. And we do this in a boardroom. We do it in a classroom as much as I'd hope. Why is it as parents we don't create this
yes.
same community, this same collaboration with our kids? Because
Mhm.
they're capable of it. They really
Yes.
are.
Yes. And if you are partnered, your partner is also capable of being in that system as well. Like,
Yes. I love that
yeah.
you brought that up.
What is this science around regulating through a moment like that? I think about that shitty thing that I said to myself, and that thing that I would never say to anybody else is when we think about the creative solutions to all of this, I think there is no one right way. I think there's like so many really good ways to move through the world, and what I'm going to enjoy in terms of my own feeling and being in my authenticity and in my world and in my life is so much different than you, from my next door neighbor, from my best friend. All of those things are so unique. What is this science around regulating through a moment like that?
Uh, Immediately I thought of, being that calm, assertive, loving pack leader is being authentic, right? It's being really honest about what I'm feeling and what I need, and what you're feeling and what you need, and creative problem solving. It's really creative problem solving and expressive communication. And in order to creatively problem solve and expressively communicate, we need to be neurologically regulated. And so in order to get there, we need to practice in non-critical spaces, in everyday play, in everyday quiet moments, in less pressured spaces, this notion of, okay, what am I feeling? Let me take a breath. Breath is the quickest way to get to tie into the mind and the body and the nervous system. When you take a breath, especially when you have this long exhale, the exhale says, let's engage the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. Let's slow everything down. Let's move from this fight or flight kind of response that happens when we get stressed out from the limbic system into the prefrontal cortex, the higher level functioning, the places where we can assess risk, where we can reason and we can problem solve. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 breaths. And in order for me to access that in that meltdown moment, I need to be giving myself time throughout the day to just have the 3 breaths with no need for anything else. But as soon as I take those 3 breaths, I cannot help but notice my body. I cannot help but notice my feelings. And that's the place where once I tap in, I become curious. That's where the creativity comes. That's where I go, oh, I'm feeling pretty angry right now. Do I want to feel into it? Do I want to have some big energy experience? Do I want to be ugly and scream? Because and I might need that. Do I want to punch the pillow? Do I want to run around the house a few times? Maybe. And I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be with the energy. And I'm not gonna need a story. I'm not even gonna need to say what I'm calling it. I'm just gonna go, I have this big energy. I need to explode it. And I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna go, energy dissipated. I'm all good. And I saw actually this morning on social media, I saw this great post. This little kid sitting at a table, little kid sitting at the table, and all of a sudden he goes, "Ah," and he just starts like bawling. And he's crying and he does it for about 7 seconds. And then he goes, and he just totally gets back to his day. But that's what I'm talking about. That's regulation.
Yes.
He said, oh, I'm feeling something. It's coming up. I'm going to let it out. And then it dissipated. We can't hold on to that level of energy long term. We just physically can't. It goes as soon as we express it, as soon as we allow it. And once we allow it and it dissipates, very often we can come back to whatever the scenario was and go, that really it's okay, because it diffuses the need to label and connect and make a story around the experience when there isn't that energy pushing from behind it.
Mhm. Yeah, and that speaks to that the suffocating and the roles and the responsibilities and good moms don't yell. Well, good moms don't run around the house to dispel their energy. Well, good moms don't punch pillows. I should be able to handle this better. I should, and I think also when we put those shoulds on ourselves, we don't mean to. We don't mean to, but we also put them on other people, right? The like, okay, well, my child is having an angry moment. Anger is uncomfortable, especially if you've been conditioned as a female. And it's like, how do I hold space for your anger, but it's uncomfortable and it's scary and I don't want you to hurt yourself, but also ugh, we
So
we need to feel it, to move
Right.
it.
So here's what I would say. First of all, I'd say stop shitting on yourself. But the other thing I would say is let's get away from trying to explain it to that angry kid that's making me uncomfortable or trying to identify all of it, and let's just jump into the energy. So I've got a kid in front of me who is having some sort of meltdown that looks like, to me, I'm interpreting as some sort of meltdown. Instead of me creating the story about them being angry, because let me tell you, when I was a kid, just as often I got yelled at for being too happy, having too
Yes.
much joy. Yeah.
Yes.
So that big energy, it shows up. I want to label it, but I'm going to resist the attempt to label, and I'm going to pick some activity that's going to mirror it, because I know you have these mirror neurons and they're going to be looking for something from me to say whether this behavior is, okay, and they should continue it. So I've got this kid melting down. I'm going to go up to them and I'm going to go, and I'm going to start doing this. And this vibration is activating my vagus nerve. It's activating my nervous system. It's causing me to feel my body. I'm getting proprioceptive connection, and it's also moving my breath. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to say, you want to join me? Come on, let's do this. Right. So I'm working on trying to regulate myself around this discomfort. At the same time, I'm working to give you a model of how to diffuse this energy that you're dealing with. And then we do this for a little bit. And then I go, all right, reach up, reach up, reach up, slam your hands on the floor, bend over, bam. Let's be thunder and lightning. Bam. And then I go, take a big breath in. Let's let the clouds go away. Tell me what's going on, Kayla.
It is like my head is clear. It's like I don't even know what I was mad about or what you were mad or what I was doing. It's like it's just like magically, magically, it's just gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
that,
yeah. And it can
oh,
be messy. It's got to be messy, but it dissipates.
it dissipates. It doesn't need a solution. It doesn't need a conversation. It doesn't need a why. It doesn't need any of that. It's like for freedom. It's like I have freed myself from whatever that was. Like I was replaying a scenario in my mind as you were doing that. Like there was this very vivid scene of like one of my children melting down, me approaching the situation, doing the pounding on the chest, me pretending to be a gorilla, engaging them in some kind of play, and we're all gorillas, and it's like it was just gone.
Yeah. And we can do the same thing with ourselves in those moments where we make a mistake or we do something that we become super hypercritical of. If we can say, what's that energy I'm feeling? I don't even have to label it. I just go, I feel frustrated. I feel, I just feel this imbalance. Or sometimes we just want to curl up in a little ball and be nothing. And so I'll go into my turtle shell, right? But what I want to do is honor the energy there, either by myself or with interactions with other people, so that I can feel it and allow it and then neutralize and dissipate it to the place where I come back to okay. And when I come back to okay, like you said, there's no story. There's no need to relate it to an expectation or a role or a place or anything, because it's just there. And I think what's happening is in that releasing of it, we come back to our home center inside of ourselves. We come back to our place of authenticity. We come back to the essence of our being, which is balanced, regulated, and harmonious. And when we do that, the other stuff, the labels, the stories, they don't have the same leverage.
That is like an amazing tool. You have just gifted me something um that is like I'll probably carry that with me forever. We talk too much as parents. And we overanalyze it and we overcompensate and we do all these things. That arrival at that moment as the thunder and the lightning, or doing the dragon breaths, or being the gorilla, or being in the turtle shell, is like all of those things require nothing except me, right? It's one of those tools that can be used anywhere. Will it always work? Maybe not. But like I'm thinking about all of the neurodivergent, highly sensitive, anxious human beings who I know, where this resource requires nothing except you.
And you don't even have to explain what you're doing.
Mhm.
And they don't have to have any words to receive it. I mean, it's all, you are so purely, rawly in your essence. And that is a super beautiful and powerful place to live your life from.
Yes. Oh, incredible. People are listening and they also went, my gosh, I need more of this. Where do people find you? Where is your resource? If people are looking for additional resources, where can they find?
Absolutely. The book that I mentioned earlier is Creating Calm in Your Classroom, and it's available on Amazon and through my publisher, Balboa Press. It's also on my website at createcalm.org. Createcalm.org is a great place to find me if you want to write to me personally, if you need anything, you want to see the other services I bring to schools and communities. I work a lot with those different populations. And so if you got questions or you need anything with that, I'm happy to be there. Social media, it's Yoga Therapy with Lisa Danahy. So come find me and let's connect.
Awesome. That sounds so great. And before we started recording, Lisa did say within the book, there is 30 different exercises that can be used between parent and child or in a classroom. I can imagine it would also be useful for people in like physio or OT or like play therapy situations, because like that thunder and lightning exercise, you could like that, I can see being used in many applications, not just in the classroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. This was an amazing, empowering conversation for me, and also I hope most of our listeners. And so if you were walking along with us in the thunder and lightning exercise, please tell me how that made you feel. Or if you need to just like dispel that horrible, awful, shitty thing that you thought, you just need that to land somewhere with someone else, please message me, message Lisa, social media, email, any of those places, because shame hides in the dark. And the only way that we can make ourselves feel less shame that I'm stupid, I'm a loser, I dropped the cup, I yelled at my kids, is to get it out of our brains and to our mouths or to our hands or to something that helps it disperse into a different kind of space, into a different kind of energy. Thank you for being here. Share those with us. If you really enjoyed this episode and you found it helpful, comments or reviews are lovely and helpful. Get it in front of more people who would like to hear it and see it. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next episode of Chill Like a Mother.